right, let's get started with the first topic of conversation. Now, I know quite a few people personally who are planning to make a trip abroad, not just temporarily. They're looking for work, they're looking to settle down. Of course, the prospects here in India are incredible, and that's a topic for another conversation. But today we're focusing on people who want to make that shift. What do they need to bear in mind as far as their finances are concerned? What are the check boxes that they need to tick? And if they want to send money home at a later date, what do they need to bear in mind? What do their beneficiaries need to bear in mind? If they want to invest, how do they go about doing that? We're going to talk about all of this and more. My guest today is Harshvardhan Rungta, who is the founder of Rungta Securities. Thank you so much, Harsh. I should say co-founder. You corrected me several times in the past. I should say co-founder of Rungta Securities. But let's get started with the first question, which is when somebody is making this switch abroad, at times that becomes a bit of a something that you put onto the back burner, right? Because you have so many other issues to contend with. Where are you going to stay? What are you going to do? Is all the paperwork in place? So sometimes you forget about the check boxes that you need to tick as far as your finances are concerned. So what do you need to bear in mind?
Good evening, Alex. It's always a pleasure to be on this show. Very quickly, you rightly mentioned that when an individual plans to settle overseas, there are a lot of other things on mind, and we tend to usually forget small bits that we need to do while we are here before we go outside. Let me just take the example of maybe it's a process to undertake for your bank account and two popular investment products. So one would be say probably a PPF and the other could be mutual fund. So let's take the case of a PPF account. So if you have opened a PPF account while you're a resident Indian and subsequently you're becoming an NRI, so many people have this confusion whether they can continue with their PPF accounts or not. So the good part is the Department of Economic Affairs in the month of February 2018 came out with a clarification to state that if you have opened a PPF account while you were a resident Indian and now subsequently become an NRI, you can continue to maintain your PPF account and in fact even continue contributing in that PPF account until it reaches its maturity. So if it's a 15-year tenure and you have a couple of years left for that 15 years to get over, you can continue making deposits in that account, and upon maturity you will not be given a choice to continue or extend that PPF account. So thereafter you cannot extend it. The PPF account will close at that point in time, and the redemption and the money will be given in your NRO account. So, whereas an NRI cannot open a new PPF account. So this is one small clarification which requires, attention, because many people have this confusion that since you're not allowed to open a new PPF account, what happens to an account which you had opened while you were a resident Indian? So, this clarification in February 2018 puts to rest all the confusion that would be there around your PPF account. Let's come to the bank account. So while you were a resident Indian, you were maintaining probably a savings bank account in the bank. So as per FEMA regulations, it is very, very clear that when a person's residential status changes, he or she has to inform their bank about the change in residential status. So your bank account, which was earlier a resident Indian savings bank account, will now have to be converted into an NRO account. So that's one step that you need to take. And quite frankly, I know of so many people who have just kind of neglected this part, and they continue to maintain a savings account while their residential status being NRI, and they go and open another NRO or NRE account, and they maintain all their transactions through that. So technically you'll be in violation of the FEMA guidelines, and it also invokes penal provisions. So quite honestly, I think everybody should make this little effort of going to your banker and updating your NRI status with them and converting your existing savings account into an NRO account. And so that is one that you need to be very careful about with your bank account that you operate in India. If I come to another popular investment product that I was talking about was mutual fund. So very clearly, if you have been investing in mutual funds or your residential status changes from a resident Indian to an NRI, you can continue investing into mutual funds either through your NRO account, which now you have converted your savings account into an NRO, and even your NRE account, which will subsequently open a new one. A few things you'll have to keep in mind with regards to the processes to undertake while with your mutual fund investment. So the first one being, of course, you need to update your KYC. So currently, as a mutual fund investor, your KYC will reflect a resident Indian as a status, which now will need to be updated and modified to say that you are an NRI. And that KYC, you'll have to fill up a new FATCA form, which will require your TIN number and the country of residence. So just fill that up, modify your KYC to update the status of NRI. And subsequently, this modified KYC acknowledgement, you will have to submit to your mutual fund schemes. If you're investing in X number of schemes, you will have to give it to those fund houses against your folio numbers, and you'll have to ask the fund house to update your KYC in the folios which you're investing into. Another important factor, reminding you back that you also changed your savings account status to an NRO now. Also update your mutual fund folios with the new bank details, because just simply updating your KYC does not mean that the mutual fund folios will also reflect your new bank account. And in case you do not update the new bank details in your mutual fund folios, at the time of redemption, you will have a problem, because the redemption would be given, will be assigned, or rather, initiated against your previous bank account in the folio. So you'll have to also update your bank account details in the folio that you're maintaining, the new bank details. So this will be the processes with regards to mutual funds. One leg further, if you are a resident of US or Canada, then your mutual funds, there are some further implications on that part. If I may just simply put it in a concise manner, the first part being, not all fund houses are, accept investments from residents of US and Canada. So you'll have to figure out the funds that you're investing into, whether they accept or whether they will continue taking investments of residents of US and Canada. Some fund houses accept only lump sum investments and do not accept SIP. So you'll have to figure that out. And in case you have SIPs which are currently running, and this particular fund house does not take SIP investments from US and Canada residents, then your SIPs will stop. So further installments will not get debited, and you will not be investing in those schemes. However, whatever you invested till now will continue to stay as it is. That does not get redeemed automatically. Some fund houses accept investments from US Canada residents even online mode, so you can transact electronically with them, and some require your physical presence to be in India, wherein a separate declaration needs to be given that you're in India while you're making this investment. So these are the small things that you will have to keep in mind and just get it sorted as soon as possible, so that at the time of requiring the money, you can get the redemption out in as fast as possible. One more implication is going to happen is that at the time of redemption from mutual funds, because your status has now changed to NRI, all your redemption proceeds, any gains on that, there will be a TDS implication, and all the redemptions that you get, it will be deducted off TDS and credited to you. So it's important that you put your residential status, you update that with all your mutual funds, so that you're not in violation of any rules and any guidelines either of SEMA or income tax, because TDS has to be deducted. While if in case you're an NRI. So being an NRI, not updating your KYC and reflecting it as a resident Indian will have even income tax implications.
Okay. Harsh, you've actually summed it up incredibly well. You've talked about all the factors that somebody needs to bear in mind. But I personally know of a case of somebody who moved from India to the US many years back, was first an NRI and now holds citizenship of that country. And now, because that person's parents are very old and need support, they want to send a particular amount of dollars, say about $500 or $300 every month to their parents. What do they need to bear in mind with regard to how that remittance gets treated here in India? And how do these very senior citizens or senior citizens have to approach this? What do they need to bear in mind?
So, well, Alex, when a son or a daughter transfers money into the account of their parents, they fall under the definition of relatives under the Income Tax Act, Section 56(2). So, all gifts given to relatives who fall under the definition of relatives, there is no tax implication on the recipient. So, in this case, wherein the child is residing outside of India and they are transferring some money to their parents for their general well-being, could be for their monthly expenses, or could be for any purpose for that matter, need not have to be specified that it has been given for this particular purpose. but he or she can most certainly transfer certain money into the bank accounts of their parents, and there would not be any tax implication on the recipient, which is the parents in this case. And you can treat this as a gift from the child to the parent. To make sure that you have some documentary evidence for this transaction, you can also draw a simple gift deed on a 100 rupee stamp paper, wherein you may have multiple transfers in the year, but at the end of the year, you can just make one gift deed consolidating all those credits that have come into the parent's account to say that this is a gift from the child to the parent, so that in case there is any inquiry from the income tax department later on asking the source of this fund, you can simply produce that document and show that it was a gift given by your children. So that should not have any income tax bearing or implication on the recipient. The methodology of transfer also I can specify. So one is you may transfer from an overseas account directly into the Indian bank account of your parent, and that is also permitted. Or else what you could do is transfer into your NRE account in India or NRO, and then transfer it to your parent's account in India. So I don't think there is anything to worry about receiving money from your children when they are settled overseas.
Okay, now while you've explained the process in which an NRI can invest in the mutual fund industry here in India, I also want to talk about strategy now, Harsh. I'm sure that you have a lot of NRI clients as well. And specifically talking about the way that the equity markets here in India have performed, I think they've defied gravity, they've defied expectations at the same time. What advice are you giving to your clients in terms of how they should approach on an ongoing basis investing in the equity market here in India?
So, well, Alex, this is a very interesting question. So we're talking about allocations in your home country, allocations overseas. So we have a couple of cases which we've been interacting with our clients, and there are interesting inputs that we get even from them. So I recently interacted with one of my clients, and he was very keen on having his insurances, which means a life cover. I'm talking about the term plan. Despite him getting a life cover overseas where he is residing right now, he was keen on having his life insurance from India. He was interested in having a major allocation of his investments back in India, for a simple reason that he says that any unrest that may happen overseas, and the first thing that we do is we run back to our country. So, just for an example, what's happening in Afghanistan. I mean, there are lots of Indians over there, and now suddenly they're just, having to rush to the airport to come back to India. And once they come back to India, what happens to their assets which are in Afghanistan right now? So, similar case, I mean, this is a very interesting input that I got from one of my interactions with my clients who residing overseas, not in Afghanistan, of course, but in another developed market. But they said the same. They shared the same sentiment, saying that they would want a larger allocation in India, not from only the returns perspective, but in case they have to rush back to the country for any reason, they would have their assets back in India. So yes, one part is from this angle, and the other would be, of course, India being a growing economy. I mean, you would not want to miss the growth that India is undertaking at this point in time. So we would most certainly have a larger allocation to India, whereas there is some bit of investments, of course, done by the clients in the country where they're residing. So I think it's just a mix of both, with more weightage and allocations towards their home country, which is India.
Fair enough. Harsh, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I think you've put all the dots on the I's and you've crossed all the T's. Anybody who's looking to move abroad or an NRI watching this program will have all their questions answered. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time and joining us on The Money Show.
My pleasure, Alex.
All right, on that note, we're slipping into a short break. Do remember that on the other side of this break, we will have a conversation about the international funds. How should you approach investing in them? If you are invested in them, what should your strategy be based on the recent events that we've heard about, not least of which have been the outcome of the most recent Fed meeting and the Evergrande crisis that hasn't yet gone away. Do stay tuned.